Yeah, people usually call me 323 or sometimes Theth.
I don't even know if we're... Oh god, we're already live. Are we?
Oh.
Yeah, we are. Okay, sometimes you have to press a button, sometimes you don't. Okay, good. Right, I'll just pop the chat out. It's gonna be fun because this wasn't announced, so people are just gonna be like, what's going on every 5 minutes?
I didn't know we were going to be live.
I didn't know this was gonna happen. I was in the middle of going to bed.
Oh, well. Well, this worked out.
It did. I'll wait for people to show up. Who's here? Oh, I see what the problem is. Okay, so we should be actually public now. We were off before, but it was not live. Yeah, that happens. Okay, good. People can see us. Excellent. You can set it to automatically stream, like, unlisted. I don't know why you would ever do that, but you can, I guess if you're testing.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that can go wrong on a call.
I'll get Sin to ping everyone. Hang on. Can you ping Discord that we're streaming? Reaction.
It's gonna be funny if, like, one of the 3 people that follows me comes here and was like, hey, it's the gun bike guy.
We have 3 people watching. Okay, excellent.
Yeah, just they're all the gun bike fans.
And all the gun bike fans. The thumbnails is still the birthday stream thumbnail. I might just change that. Hang on, Armored Core 6.
Man, I'm gonna have to finally buy a console.
I know, it's awful. It is PS4, so I can get away with just completely avoiding the current generation.
Is it still, like, obnoxiously hard to find, or was that the PS5?
I've seen... The PS5 isn't obnoxiously hard to find. I've seen one PS5 in my life. Okay, we should have a nicer thumbnail now. I just want to see who's actually in the chat, because monitor is a mess as usual. Hello, okay, good. We got Aris, we got Sam, we got Dill Pickle.
Hello.
Hi. Okay, we've got 11 people here. We've hit the magic double digits. So, do you wanna tell everyone who you are? Because you've been mentioned a couple of times. We've never had you on.
Hi there. Yeah, I'm a longtime friend of Sophie's here. We both like to geek out over Armored Core.
You're actually like
in general.
You're my oldest online acquaintance. I was just thinking about that because we go back to like 2003, 2004.
Yeah, I think we were like planning for some other web show that didn't happen.
We were, yeah. A couple of things actually.
I mostly remember the webcomic talk.
Webcomic talk. That was a long time ago. And yeah, you're an artist.
Yeah.
Yep, you do anime inflected artwork.
Yeah, I like to anthropomorphize fighter jets and other inanimate objects.
Yes.
I like to think of it as the opposite of objectifying women because I'm womanizing objects.
Exactly, it's perfect. And yeah, so that's how we know each other. And we basically asked you on because, like, firstly, I had no idea this was happening. This went live at like midnight my time, and I was just getting ready for bed, and then suddenly my DMs exploded. So we're gonna do this. Famously, I'm the person that managed to get an hour out of the Shadow of the Erd Tree promotional image. I don't think we'll be getting an hour out of this. Largely because we're devoid of context is the thing. Because the whole thing about like Shadow of the Erd Tree is like that was the sequel to something that we'd sort of obsessed over for a long time. So we had the ability to be like, oh, that thing is that thing, and that thing is that thing. Whereas Armored Core 6, they've explicitly said like it's a different, like they're just basically starting over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the reason that I've asked you on is like we basically know each other and we're friends because we played like Armored Core a lot in our teams. Yeah, yeah.
Did we ever get to play Five or Verdict Day together?
We
Because I know we were both
didn't.
playing it.
We were
No.
both playing it at the same time, and I got
Yeah.
obsessed with building drones.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you were like struggling with parts of it, and you were asking what I was doing, and I was just making like little turrets. I was basically playing like tower defense. Okay, we got Asa and we got Centrina here, so that's excellent. Otto, you've not missed anything. We've not started yet, so we're going to go over the trailer that just dropped on YouTube, and I don't know if this is coming through the. It's not. Okay.
I was going to ask, did you want to do a screen share, or should we just like do a
I'm trying to do a
countdown?
screen share, but I don't know if it's letting me.
I do have the trailer up in a window if you just
I've got it.
like,
I may actually have to
countdown.
open it in YouTube because it doesn't seem to be working from VLC, which is annoying. It's okay. I'll just open it in YouTube.
The VLC fixes everything.
Last time I streamed from YouTube, the chat got taken down. So hopefully that won't happen again. Okay, hang on. I'm in call.
Taking stream sniping seriously, huh?
It was like they took us down for copyright for showing footage that was already on YouTube, which I thought was excessive. Hang on, let's just fix the window that we're capturing from. Let's go Armored Core 6 on.
Man, automated copyright is like the worst crap. They started rolling that out on. They've been rolling that out on Twitch too, and like, if it detects, it doesn't even give you like a strike. Like if it just like mutes your audio because it detects something, it stops auto-publishing VODs.
Oh god.
So you have to go in and manually public everything after you close stream.
Okay, so
we have a Retrothon running right now on RGL, and every couple days or so they have to go through and like manually public the VOD because they keep playing stuff during intermission.
Okay, so here we go. I might just see how big I can make. It's not. Good. Okay, so we have the video open.
Alright.
Okay. So, who have we got? Oh, okay, more people are showing up. Excellent. Okay, good. So, for everyone who's just arriving, you haven't missed anything. We haven't started yet. So this went live at midnight for me. It is now 12:57 a.m. It's been up for about an hour, so we're just going to watch it through and then we're going to go back over it. This is Japanese. It uses Japanese subtitles, but I have successfully OCR'd all the subtitles in the video. So we'll be able to talk about what they are.
Yeah, I can understand a little spoken Japanese, but all I picked out was them going handler when talking about somebody.
Yeah.
Activating cerebral oral control device.
I've just realised that it's also gone live in English, so all of my OCRing was pointless.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh well.
The handler thing was important.
Oh, they really said wake the dog up.
Augmented human C4621 has awakened.
I'm watching a little out of sync, and I heard the voice bite about augmented human.
The thing is, like, I've already seen this like 8 times now. This isn't really a reaction per se.
Yeah. Electro Whip, Norelco Duneworm.
Yes.
One of the infamous handler Walter's hounds. Interesting. You ready to
assigned Raven. Priority subject for termination. High on the list.
A coral response from the generator. Watch out.
Why hide behind another's call sign?
Let's see how far they can fly. On borrowed wings.
Okay. Oh, hey, I didn't realize we got a figurine with it. There was also an interview that the
They did
producer
that
gave
with
to IGN.
5 too.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad to see they're going all out for it. There was an interview that the producer gave to IGN as well. I watched that and I just took notes on it because it basically just reiterated a lot of what's already in the trailer. So, the first thing they mentioned is the story's a complete reset, which is kind of like common to the series, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much every time they go to a new numeral.
Yeah, yeah. The way that like we've been talking about it basically is like the PS1 games, like 1 to 3, are kind of a self-contained thing.
Yeah.
Like if you can like 2 is definitely a sequel to 1. Like you can see that like they seed the plot of 2 in 1 with like the Mars stuff. And then
3 kind of has this plausible deniability thing
yeah,
going on.
it's almost like a Zelda split timeline thing, where it's like there's 1, and then if they go to Mars, it's 2. If they don't go to Mars, it's 3. And then 4 and 5, like, they're like a duology, but there's actually 4 of them.
Yeah.
Like 5 is a sequel to 4, isn't it? It doesn't just reuse parts. Like it's actually a continuation.
It must be pretty far ahead, but they do have like Kojima particle technology being unearthed.
Yeah, like the same. It's like not the direct continuation of the story, but the same. Like it's the same setting, like the same tech recurs, and the same like they bring back Motherwell from For Answer in. Is it 5 or Verdict Day? They bring it back. It's like
Verdict Day.
Yeah, they bring it back. Yeah.
Most of the memorable stuff is in Verdict Day.
Yeah.
You know, I was kind of disappointed that they didn't have like some kind of a dungeon crawl mechanic in that one because they kept talking up the towers.
Yeah, and like something we talked about is like AC1 has a kind of like
Yeah, I could see 3, 4, and 5 being linked.
Yeah. AC1 has those like the sort of the deep research-based missions you do that just basically play like King's Field with these really long, complicated labyrinth designs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, a lot of people here. Good, excellent. So, this is going to be a reboot. Calling it a reboot doesn't really make sense because it's constantly rebooting itself anyway. But yeah, the thing that he mentioned was interstellar travel is commonplace in this world, which is not something that like I associate with any of the prior 5 games.
You know, the thing at the very beginning of the trailer really has vibes of like a BattleTech jump ship.
Yeah, we were talking like on the one that got pulled. We were talking about like if you watch the intros, they all evoke a slightly different anime. Like like one is very like cyberpunky, and then 3 almost looks like a duel from like Macross, where they're like jetting through a city and the windows are all breaking. And then when you get to like 4 and 5, they look like very gritty, like if there was an anime of Front Mission. Or like
you're like getting into like that show Gasaraki. This really like stocky thing, except for like the one samurai robot that was like a spirit or some crap.
Yeah, and like the military sequences from Patlabor, where it's all obsessed with like visors and cameras, and like when there's an explosion, it whites out the camera slightly and stuff like that. So
really
it's like
nailed that look.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, if you look at the like we showed them before, like if you look at the trailers for 4 and 5, like it just looks like war footage. Yeah, like you see, like it's like this grainy, like night vision footage of just like cities being bombed. And if you didn't see the robots, you'd assume it was like news footage about like some conflict in like Basra or something. But then this like enormous robot will just like flatten the buildings.
Yeah.
So this looks way like it's going back to the sort of, like you're saying, BattleTech thing. Like, it looks way more like sci-fi-y.
I'm getting this vibe where it's kind of... It looks like it's getting more closer to like 3 and 4, like aesthetically, like the
Yeah.
proportions of the robots and stuff.
Yeah, it's like the
Like
proportions
the one
of
that shows
yeah.
up... Sorry.
No, you can go.
The one that shows up at the end almost looks exactly like one of the nexts. But everything before that kind of has like a 3 vibe, where they got like
Yeah.
lankier limbs that 5 did.
Yeah, like
Like
this
5
one...
had that thing where like they were super stocky and they had like car doors welded to them and
Yeah.
giant club of rebar.
There was one that looked a bit like Fragile. Had that, like, sort of really, like, almost Evangelion proportioned torso, where it's incredibly
Yeah.
thin but with massive shoulders, yeah.
That one.
Yeah, yeah. The problem is YouTube goes all fuzzy when I'm, like, clicking around it.
Nah.
Yeah. I guess, like, the other thing that struck me with the environments that they're fighting in is, like, 4 and 5 are very, like, it's a wasteland. And that kind of, like, informs the combat style, because it feels a lot more like... like, we've talked about the different sort of ways... Oh, there's the Fragile one. Hang on, it's at, like,
Yeah.
2:15. Fragile is a mech from For Answer. There you go. That, like, really, 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 like, unbelievably thin, but with, like, very stocky sort of joints. Like, Armored Core 1 is, like... It's all, like, dense and urban, and it's kind of continues to be... Even though, like, 3 is technically set underground, isn't it? But they still manage to make it, like, dense and urban. But then, like, because the mechs in those move kind of slowly, they have overboosting in 2 and 3, where you can cover very large gaps quickly, but the mechs aren't exactly fast. They just have a very... They have a very fast way of moving forward, but they have to stop to actually do anything.
They're not very maneuverable.
Yeah, whereas 4 and 5, they push it more toward, like, it's almost like fighter jets dogfighting. Like, they're going really, really fast. They're kind of engaging with each other really quickly. And this seems almost like it's in between them. Like, there seem to be quite large open areas, but there's also a lot of, like, I see just a lot of indoor stuff.
Yeah.
Like, in the leak, like, oh, here's one actually, yeah. So, like, what's on screen now, I remember they leaked those screenshots. And they were quite low res, but you could see, oh, there's a real focus on, like, kind of industrial and military facilities in this. Like, if you sort of zoomed out, you think, is this a level from, like, Metal Gear Solid or something? Where it's, like, this big kind of complicated space. Whereas, like, in like, the other 5, it would just be, like, that would be... either entirely be inside a space like that, or it would be, like... That would be, a point of interest on a map that was very, very open otherwise, and this looks like you're sort of going in and out of them.
I don't suppose they would go full open world. That would be hard to do.
They said something to the effect of open world, but I don't think that's what it is, because they've mentioned it's mission based, I think. I guess, like, Metal Gear Solid 5 is kind of open world with missions. But
yeah,
yeah,
they could kind of do that where it's almost like instanced when you're doing a mission.
Yeah, with, like, a area you can't leave or something. I'm also wondering if by open world they just mean, like, it's a very open space that you can explore. Because it's the same director as Sekiro, which is very into, like, big vertical spaces that you can sort of, like, jump around. Speaking of Sekiro, like, some of the melee things in this are, like... I think when we saw the giant electric whip, it was like, okay, they've done that thing.
Yeah, when I was seeing that, and there's, like, the guy has, like, the dome of missile launchers toward the end. I just wonder if over weapons are coming back, or if that's, like, a boss encounter.
Yeah, so do you want to talk about over weapons? Because I talked about this, like, another time. I basically said that you could have, basically, a 2-story chainsaw attached to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they have that construction mech that definitely has, like, paired grind blade arms going on, but that looks like a boss.
Yeah.
But then you have the other one that looks like a little guy just wearing a giant backpack.
Like, something else we've brought up, actually, with reference to Demon Souls a lot, is that, like, the arms for like they always had in the series like this is a unique thing you're fighting. Like even back in 1, it's like here's a mech that's just gigantic, or like here's a jet or something. But then with For Answer, they introduced the arms forts as like the whole level is about taking down like a very specific target that has a specific set of weaknesses to it.
Yeah, I love those stages.
Yeah. The reason I bring it up is because like the final boss fights in Demon Souls play out like that a lot, where it's like you're fighting something, but instead of it being like a one-on-one duel, it's something like you have to figure out like you attack this part of it, and that makes it fall over, and then that exposes something else, and you attack that. And that's kind of how the arms forts work. It's things like there's like a tank, but you can't fight it head on. You have to like get really close and go underneath the skirting, and then attack the tracks from underneath or something like that. And
Oh, that was a weird one.
yeah, was that Cabracan or Great Wall?
It was Cabracan, the one where the sides pop off and you have
Yeah,
to
yeah,
deal
all
with,
the
like,
drones
an
come
obnoxious
out.
number of drones.
That's the thing. That's like that's what I always bring up when we're talking about like the design of the bosses in Demon Souls. That like Storm King in that literally does the Cabracan thing. It's just like this big stingray, and then when it encounters you, just all of its little tiny stingrays launch out the sides and start swarming you, and it's like it's Cabracan.
The first time I fought that one, I just like loaded up on like heavy single shot type weapons like bazookas,
Yeah.
and then when the sides popped off, I'm like, oh, I can't keep up with this.
Yeah, and then there's they do it in Elden Ring with the I know you haven't played it, but the fight with there's like a boss that the start of it is literally the start of the Motherwell fight, where you're just like you start off really far away and he's firing these massive projectiles at you and you have to dodge them, and you're in the exact same like aesthetic of desert. And you're like avoiding them to get close to him, and then like start taking him out from up close. So, like,
I think I've heard about that sequence.
yeah, Radahn, yeah. I remember as soon as I saw that, I just like started. Oh Christ, I'm fighting Motherwell again. There's a bit in this where you see like a giant foot come down. I don't know if they're literally bringing Motherwell back or not, but like, I guess the thing that like we've talked about this in
I feel like they almost have to have some kind of like an
Yeah.
arms fort adjacent thing show up at this point.
Yeah, because something that we've like talked about a bit is that there's clearly a lot of things in this game that hang on, we just saw the foot. It's at like 109, 108, 108, 109, 107 maybe. Basically, there's a lot of things in this game that are very clearly mechanics that we've seen in like 4 and 5, but those were tied into the story. So like,
Well, like that
Primal
scene
Armor.
that you just pan past there, where like they're diving down the silo, dodging lasers. That was like a straight up. I forget if that's 4 or 4 answer. There's like one where you're approaching an energy plant from above, and you have to dive down the central tower.
Yeah.
That's like almost straight up the same
Yeah,
sequence.
yeah. But like what I'm getting at is there's a bunch of stuff here that's like it's the same thing, but it won't literally be the same thing because this is an unrelated story. So we're seeing like what are clearly the Kojima particle primal armor barriers showing up. But this is set in the Rubicon star system. Where obviously like the Kojima radiation thing's not going to be a plot point. So I'm guessing it's like it's the same mechanic, we're just going to call it like Rubicon energy or something. No, they call it coral. So it'll be like the coral barrier instead of the Kojima primal armor thing. They even do the thing where you overload the primal armor and it like expands. So clearly and also like I don't know how much of this is like recycled, but like the quick boosting looks exactly the same. Like
Yeah, I
the
was getting
timing
a
and
lot of,
everything, yeah.
I think it's getting a lot of vibes from like either 4 or 5 movement.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Which is
like
good.
yeah, like
I like how
four
that
and 5 are
feels.
the ones that introduce the quick boost. Which you don't get in 1, 2, and 3. Like in 1, 2, and 3, like we've talked about this, it's hard to explain unless you actually play it. But in 1, 2, and 3, you're not actually very maneuverable. But then they introduce into is it 2 or 3 that they introduce overboosting? I think it's 2.
Overboost was 2, yeah.
Yeah, they introduce this thing called overboost that's like you're still not very maneuverable, but you can close gaps directly in front of you very quickly. You basically like charge up for a second and then you just rocket forward. But you're moving so quickly and so awkwardly that like it's just a gap closer. Like, you can't really... You're not actually moving that quickly.
I just feel like Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
overboost on.
Oh no, I loved exploiting it in arena fights because you could just win by ring out. By just trying to bait your opponent into overboosting towards you, and then if you just got out of the way, they just fly out of the arena and you'd win.
It was a good way to cheese through those.
Yeah.
My favorite way to cheese the 3 arena, though, is like if you go to the parking garage, since like everybody in 3 has to have a right arm gun, if you stand against like the left wall behind like a fuse box or something,
Yeah.
they'll just sit there firing into the fuse box and they literally can't hit you. It kind of breaks when they added dual wielding.
Yeah. Something Theomony pointed out, Casetive, who we've had on a couple of times, like she was telling me, she was showing me this. She's like,
hey.
It's really neat how the oh, she's here. Hi, yeah. So yeah, we were just talking about when you were pointing out the sort of transition to flight mode that this quadruped does, because it's not like quadrupeds, like the quadruped mech design, like it doesn't really go back to 1, because in 1 it has technically quadrupeds, but they're not really. They're like hovering things with 4 little sort of like fins coming out to stabilize them. You don't get proper quadrupeds. Is it 2 or 3 we get proper quadrupeds?
Dignity City.
You know, we found out there's a non-profit that's actually called Dignity City.
Oh, great.
I know. I think ours is more popular, though.
I hope you didn't find out through a lawsuit.
Oh, God, I'm really worried. No, because Sin was like, we got to register dignitycity.com. And there already was one, and it's like a place that feeds homeless people. I'm like, oh no.
You get in a situation where you have dignitycity.com and they have .org, and you get
should technically be .edu. Anyway, so yeah, so we were talking about like the way that this quadruped mechs, basically they've always sort of existed, and boosting's always been a thing with them, but it's basically been like they just sort of jump and hover. Whereas this one, it's like the quadruped legs actually retract, and it seems to enter like actual flight mode.
They did have them peeping through a building, so they might have brought back scan mode.
Yeah, because like, oh, there's so many different modes, but like the way that it actually seems like it almost looks like there might be a dedicated flight mode as opposed to just being very good at boosting.
That'd be sick.
Because like that's like something they do this in For Answer. Like you can basically tune the mech to be airborne at all times, but it's not. It doesn't have a dedicated flight mode. It's just you're just boosting a lot. Whereas this, like, it's almost like it's shit. Like it's doing a Transformers thing. It's like it jumps and the legs fold, and then it starts hovering. But yeah, cool. Yeah. Do you want to talk about the different modes they do? Is Verdict Day when they bring in scan mode, or is that in For Answer? It's just Verdict Day.
It was 5 and Verdict
5 and Verdict Day. Yeah.
You would toggle between scan mode and combat mode, and when you were in scan mode, your weapons would be turned off, but you'd have like a drastically increased generator regen, and you could see through objects, and it would highlight some stuff. You could like scan a target in the distance to see what its weaknesses are. Yeah, but it was kind of hard to do that while you were getting shot.
Yeah, you basically put the mech in like low power mode.
I think it drive. Yeah, I was hearing a lot of people complaining that it was annoying to toggle between it. So maybe if they streamline that, or there's less of it, or there's just not a voice that goes scan mode.
Yeah. So something that they talk about in the IGN interview is they wanted the melee weapons to have like a sense of individuality about them, rather than just being like something that you use in melee to do extra damage. And I think like we get a real sense of that because there's that I just showed it then, there's like a laser sort of like lightsaber thingy that comes out of the mech's hand, but then there's also like there's the whip that we've been talking about a lot, because like there's never been anything like that in the series before, the idea of this like massive electronic whip thing.
It looks like they kept that booster kick too.
Yeah, the booster kick.
One of my favorite things to do in 5.
Yeah, there's the whip. And then later on, there's like a full-on, like, you're impaling someone.
Well, they've had the physical / parry blades in the
Yeah,
past,
yeah.
so I wouldn't be surprised if they brought back a pile bunker.
Oh,
Actually,
they
that was
definitely
in,
they definitely have the power bunker. They said it.
I think that's been in a bunch of them.
It probably
I've had
has.
some pretty crazy swords, but they kind of do all do the same thing. So if they have
Yeah.
like something like dedicated to puncturing or
Well, I'm more interested in like the
stuff like that.
movesets things are doing, because they seem to actually like handle differently. Because if it's the guy from Sekiro, I can very much see them going in that direction. I keep accidentally maximizing as I'm clicking.
Totally.
Yeah, because like that had like the standard sword that you use, but then it had all these like crazy little extra things you could do, like the little daggers and like the you could like switch out and get like a melee like judo moveset where you were tripping people up and stuff. And like Sekiro is very
nice.
good at like giving everything a unique feel to it during combat, and it looks like they're going in that direction. Like clearly, like a whip and a lance don't control the same. Like just by looking at them, you can tell.
I do like that in their other games they do value like making weapons distinct, you know, rather
like,
than just like number go up.
Yeah, because in 1, 2, 3, it's just energy and it's just solid and energy, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
there's
and then they
pretty much only beam sabers.
Yeah, and then in
3 they had physical blades, but they were kind of jank.
But then in I mean like damage types, like 4, 5, they bring in like they actually break it down into like it's like if kinetic, heat, and chemical or something.
Oh, that was 5.
It was 5, yeah.
Yeah, they did a rock paper scissors thing. It was kind of interesting, but kind of annoying at the same time in principle.
It was. I remember it really getting like irritating because you can't swap out the build mid mission.
Yeah.
So if you tuned too heavily towards something that was like you said, it's rock paper scissors. So if you like tune too heavily toward, you know, heat based weapons and suddenly everything's not taking damage from heat, you're kind of messed up.
It just got really annoying every time you were like getting like lightly grazed by a machine gun and hearing.
And the other thing he said was that like, this is the producer. He talked about how like Armored Core 5 and Verdict Day were very, very multiplayer based. And they absolutely were. Like we mentioned, like we both played Verdict Day at the same time. But like, not enough people played Verdict Day for the online to really work the way it was supposed to.
Oh, 5 was even worse.
Yeah.
It wouldn't start a match until there were like 4 or 5 actual players.
Yeah, like
they patched bots in like way later.
Yeah. Because like 5 and Verdict Day, they had this persistent online thing where you joined factions, and then as you did missions, there's like a real-time sort of like map that updated with who was controlling what.
Hey, can you play the Evergreen theme? Maybe on the way out. Yeah, you would pick a faction at the start of a season, and every time you logged into the game, you would hear the faction theme on the menu.
I'm gonna open it. Some cackling going as you know what's happening.
We like
Evergreen.
Forever
Evergreen.
Happiness, make your dream.
We're not even there yet. We're at the original.
Oh, right.
The original distorted what? This the song that they had to patch out.
Evergreen.
Yeah, we got people in chat singing along. We got some true fans here. So basically, you have to imagine you've logged into Armored Core Verdict Day, and this is the menu theme, and you can't change it. Oh, we've got a lot of Evergreen defenders in the chat saying they like this music.
You can change factions every time a season ends, but like when I first signed into the game and they were describing them, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna play for the anti-corporate independent faction. And I end up on Evergreen.
This is the patched version. It's a bop.
I think the red team one got better after patch. It was just kind of like droning Shin Megami Tensei.
Forever happiness, make a dream. It was just... I think I've converted the chat to thinking this is awesome now.
I don't know what else to say. I got kind of sidetracked by the Evergreen theme.
We still remember. I've not touched Verdict Day for like almost a decade, and I'm still like, Evergreen! Evergreen! Oh, the other thing we did is like, someone's like, is this Silver Gunner? Something that we did on this stream that we can't show anymore because we used Patlabor footage in it is like we were playing the I reckon I can get away with it because we're not going to show Patlabor footage again. Hang on. It was specifically Patlabor that did us in.
Thanks, Patlabor.
Thanks, Patlabor. This like anime I'm constantly recommending to people and defending and own a $150 collector's edition version of. Ruining everything. Hang on. That's not the one we want. This is the one. I'll mute it slightly. So, this is From's in-house band. They're called Frequency. And the guy in the middle, that's Hoshino Koda, who was like, he was the guy who composed pretty much all the Armored Core music. And
the GOAT.
He is amazing. And he also did the music for an RPG they did called Evergrace. That like almost no one remembers. But he's really fucking weird.
I've been exposed to like a curious amount of Evergrace lately since I started watching like Thor High Heels and a couple of
excellent
channels.
I do.
It just keeps coming up.
I do have a copy. I have a physical copy of Evergrace. There they are again. So this is basically From's in-house band. They have their own record label called From Sound that they release them on. They're called Frequency. The problem is it's really hard to just look up something called Frequency because it's a word. But
yeah.
Hang on, I'll see if we can get a good angle on it. Where is she? Yuka Kitamura, who does the Dark Souls and Elden Ring music. There she is. The lady with the violin is Yuka Kitamura, who did... There she is. She did, like, a lot of Dark Souls and a lot of Elden Ring. And yeah, they're in it. It's like her and Hoshino Koda. They're in this, like, fucking weird band called Frequency. That, just, like... From release their albums, and the albums are basically Armored Core OSTs. Because it's, like, the same thing. Like, you can get a Frequency album and it just has what is essentially Armored Core music on it. But, like, because Armored Core's been rested for the last decade... There's Yuka Kitamura. There they are. That's Hoshino Koda, and that's Yuka Kitamura. And yeah, because Armored Core's been rested for so long, I don't know what the hell Hoshino Koda's been doing. Like, has he just been, like, writing music in his office or something? But yeah, that's
Was he composing for any of the Souls games?
No, he didn't. I missed him. I missed him because, like,
did they tap him for the phone game?
Oh, maybe. I just remember, like, because Armored Core, particularly Four Answers soundtrack, is like bizarre sounding. Like, I really like it. A lot of people can't stand it. It's just it's like really like it's like industrial techno rock stuff with like weird like vocoder stuff going on.
I really love that grungy guitar sound that they get in those.
Oh, okay. K-Sniff says Hoshino Koda did. He wasn't doing composing, but he was doing sound design on the other games, which makes sense.
Well, he really nailed that sniper cannon in Verdict Day.
Yeah, people typing "Deep Sea Fish loves you forever" in chat.
I don't even care what the real lyrics are anymore. That's all I hear when I listen to it.
Yeah, we all do. I know what the lyrics are, and I still can't unhear it. The other one is, I can see all I just hear is, we are the best at fucking skee-ball.
I probably wouldn't have picked that out if the title of the track wasn't I Can See All.
That fucking skee-ball. We are the best at fucking skee-ball.
So, are you very familiar at all with Demon X Machina? I know you hadn't
I
played it.
watched you
firsthand.
play it. I've never had a Switch, but I watched you play it, like, when it came out. Because
there
you were
are like a
streaming
lot
it.
of things that kind of feel influenced, and I don't know how much DNA the two productions
I
end up
heard that a
sharing.
lot of, like, ex-Ace Armored Core people actually just left to make Demon X Machina.
Yeah.
I don't know how many, because I'm not, like, super familiar with the From staff outside of, like, Natoshi Jin and the big name people. But yeah, apparently there's a lot of, like, ex-AC staff in Demon X
But
Machina.
it's like part of the world setting that they don't really do a very good job fleshing out, honestly, is like something happened to the moon and like some kind of red mineral is spread all over the surface.
Oh.
And that's kind of like the power source for like some of your out there technology.
Yeah, which makes it's essentially... Well, okay, this is something that we also brought up on the stream that cannot be repeated. Which was that, like, the tone of Fires of Rubicon is, like, it's a really different sounding sort of, like... The way it's explained is different, because if you're thinking about, like, a kind of more grounded SF story, like, the secret sort of, like, scary energy source, it'd be something that a scientist developed in a laboratory, and then it, like, went haywire. Whereas the way that they talk about this, like, Rubicon Coral stuff is it was discovered. Like, they
there's
found
something about
this thing.
Something about the we found a magic rock makes
No, yeah,
it
yeah,
similar
absolutely,
to
yeah.
Demon.
Yeah, it doesn't... And, like, I remember way before we had official confirmation, there was rumors of a mech game they were doing that was called... I think it was just called Interscene. And, it was, like, Interscene, and they're fighting over an energy source called Melange.
The inner scene, or I think it was the internet scene or something like that, was like the terminal at the end of Armored Core Last Raven where
Oh,
the
that makes
AI was
sense.
like housed.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of cool if that was related.
Yeah, and like, but my feeling with this is like the way that Interscene was described sounded an awful lot like broadly the plot of 6, where it's like interstellar stuff, space opera-y with a mysterious energy source. And I'm wondering if like at some point they didn't just like retrofit this. They weren't like, maybe they weren't sure of the identity and they sort of retrofitted it into being 6 later on. Like, it was so close to 6, they like may as well call it 6.
I wouldn't doubt they recycled some of the better ideas over time.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at the life cycle of like the Star Fox series, there's like so much stuff from the canceled 2 that showed up in later games that when they finally released it as part of the mini, it's like you can go back and play like, oh, this is where the lock-on shot came from, and like the tactical interface from Star Fox Command is in it.
Yeah, Oh, someone's trying him in chat's like, well, this track's already on YouTube, you won't get in trouble. That's what got us in trouble last time. Because I was like, well, clearly if I show these clips that are already on YouTube, we won't get in trouble, and then the stream got pulled by, like, who was it? Whoever owns the rights to Patlabor. I'm just showing, like, some,
God is force.
Yeah, this is what I mean about, like, the sort of focus on very military, like, low-tech stuff that you get with 4. With just, like, helicopters and stuff. Which, like, this does not... I mean, 5 is even more... Like, 5 pushes this even further, but,
I always forget how good the intro animation
Oh, they're
to
so
4
good.
is.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I think it's more atmospheric than
Yeah.
the 4 Answer one, even though White Glint is amazing.
I love White Glint.
Actually got a chibi model of it
Aw.
somewhere. It's really hard to stand up because the heel spurs fall off.
I'll show the 5 intro after this, because the 5 intro is even, like, goes even further down this route of being just, like, it just looks like war footage. Like, this looks like a movie that is trying to look like war footage. Whereas, like, 5 just straight up looks like war footage. Because you get, like, the angles and everything, and there's this, like, you know, this music in the background. And it looks like, it's going for that aesthetic, because it's this, like, desaturated looking footage. And, like, some of the angles are a little weird. But then when you get to 5, it just looks like this is news footage that you would see on TV in this era of, like, you know, there was a bombing somewhere.
The intro to Last Raven is kind of like a... feels like a step in between the old stuff and this.
Yeah. I have, like, very, very faint memory of Last Raven. Because, like, because, like, the Armored Core games,
yeah,
like...
It didn't come out in your region, did it?
It didn't come out in my region, but I think it's one of the ones, like, it did come out in Britain or something, so I was able to get it, like, 10 years after it came out, and it does play on my machine because it's, a PAL system, but, like... Yeah.
I love that bit.
My memories are mostly of just, like...
The lights on the visor,
oh,
kind
yeah.
of like it's narrowing its eyes.
It's so good. Hang on. 5 intro.
There's a new Suppless figure coming out, actually. The mech from the 4 intro.
Okay. Okay, here we go. I've got 5 up.
I think it's like one of those Bandai premium
Yeah.
something or others.
Like, the way that 5 opens, and it's like, it's just close-ups of cables and gears and, like, really primitive-looking lights. And just the way that, like, they focus on, like, this is a mech, but it has to be, like, winched into place. Like, they really play up that aspect of it. Like, it's very, like, this is big and heavy and industrial.
But they're doing a lost technology thing in 5 too.
Yeah.
Like, parts were separated by how many generations they removed they were from the original.
And then there's that theory that, like, 5 ends with the world of 1. Like, you go from 5 to 1, like, it's like 4 and 5 are actually a prequel to, like, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, they had that weird thing going on where, like, they super simplified the factions. They just had the company or the corporation. And then it turned out that the sponsor guy was just, like, an AI, and he was...
Yeah.
Kind of comes off like they were trying to drive everybody out of the city into the wasteland.
Yeah. Like, I predict there'll be some, like, big plot twist thing in the middle. Because, like, we brought up, like, the plots tended to be, like, you would have a whole lot of little stories that gradually built on each other as you did missions, and you would sort of learn more based on the missions you were doing. But then there are a few just, like, big reveal moments in the series. Like at the end of 1 where you figure out that, like, oh, it's an AI that's running everything.
Yeah.
And but then you also have, like, in For Answer, there's, like, the cradles, and it's like the cradles are... The thing you think is defending the cradles is actually trying to stop the cradles from escaping. And the stuff with, like, the silent line and everything, like, why the silent line is there.
I kind of wish they did explain a little bit more stuff about, like, the assault cells in 4 Answer. Because, like, apparently there's just, like, a network of unmanned defense satellites that were keeping people from escaping the planet.
Yeah.
I think the idea is that the corporations, like, put a bunch of weapons in space and just lost control of them. So they're just kind of, like, indiscriminately attacking.
Well, that's kind of... That happens in 1 as well with, like, Murakumo. Like, toward the end of 1 where it's, like... They kind of do a Lost Tech thing in that, where it's, like, the world of 1 is recovering from this massive war that happened. And then toward the end of it, when they start getting desperate, they go and, like,
Yeah, the chief was cool.
They go and they take over, there's, like, a space station, there's, like, a giant, like, orbital laser cannon. And the mission is, like, you're going inside of the barrel. You're, like, running down the barrel of this massive cannon to get to, like, where the bullet... It's just ridiculous. Yeah. But
Cool,
that was always the thing. Oh, Caleb, the release date is officially August 25. Hey, Leviathan. Allison, hello. Everyone's here. So yeah, what are we talking about? Yeah, so the thing that I kept bringing up that, like, felt different about Rubicon is, like, the space aspect. Because, like, Armored Core 2 is set on Mars. Other than that, space isn't really a big deal in the series. Like, there's orbital weapons in space stations and satellites and stuff, like we have now.
Yeah.
But, like, and there's, like, a moon base in one as well. But the presence of, like, this is, like, a full-on space opera. That's what Rubicon seems to feel like. That, like, it's not just that there's a planet, it's like there's a planetary system. And they're all just named, like, Rubicon 3. Like, it's like there's this whole, like, massive space thing going on. They meant, like, interstellar travel is commonplace. And that's the part that feels so different to me.
I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah. And also wondering if it's going to go down some, like, alien route. If they're going to go that far and be like, yeah, it's on another planet, there's a mysterious energy source.
Had From done any other hard sci-fi stuff that went into space travel before? Because I think most of it stayed fairly grounded.
Yeah, like the hard... I mean, Chrome Hounds is, like, entirely on Earth, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's arguably even lower tech because they have, like, mechs with rubber wheels.
Well, yeah, Chrome Hounds is basically just tanks that happen to have, like, slightly more modular designs.
And a completely busted custom mode.
Chrome Hounds is, like... It was the same thing, well, not the exact same thing, but it was this, like, designed for online play, and then the server's gone, so that's it. No more
and
Chrome Hounds.
Morikuma was like a high-speed... Was it like a rail shooter, almost? Because I thought the idea was like you're chasing down rogue machines.
I don't know.
I'll have to look into that sometime, but it sounded cool.
Yeah. I'm playing the intro for 3 now, that, like, this sort of... Like, this kind of combat is... Like, this sort of... If you compare this to, like, the intro of 5, it's, like, it's broadly the same thing in that it's mechs fighting in a city, but... Like, this... Like, I compared this kind of to Macross. It's obviously a lot, like, dirtier than Macross, but...
Yeah.
The idea of, like, mechs fighting in a city, blowing the windows out of buildings, and there's, like, you know, Seeker missiles and things that it's zooming in on. Then you compare it to what 5 looks like, and 5 just looks like a war. Also, yeah, they just launched its, like, Exceed orbit cannon. Oh yeah, okay, so someone to bring up, didn't they make a horror game that started with you being a kid in a house and sequels in space? That's Echo Knight. Echo Knight is, like... Echo Knight and Echo Knight 2 are set, they're, like, sort of vaguely... They're, like, Déraciné, they're, like, vaguely Victorian period pieces. But then, Echo Knight Beyond is in space. But I don't know if you'd call it, like, hard sci-fi, because it's got, like, ghosts and stuff in it. It's kind of like, horror, like, possessed spaceship kind of story. Rather than, yeah, it's like you're an you're like the great-great-great-great-great-grandson of the character from Echo Knight. Then it's just, like, it's so far in the future that you're in space now, but that you're still dealing with ghosts.
Oh, so they just have the same name.
I think it's technically the same universe. They just it's like the whole Demon Souls Bloodborne thing, where it's like it's the same universe, but you've moved it forward like a couple of 100 years, so it's sort of unrecognizable, but it's also the same place.
I'm gonna be right back.
Okay.
Just like a minute.
Yeah, okay, I'll keep everyone occupied. How long have I been going for? I said this wouldn't be as long as the Elden Ring thing, but I think it will be.
You lied!
Ugh. I swear that when I said, like, very brief reaction, that was supposed to be brief. Cat.
Wake the dog up.
So, when this initially came out, I just had the Japanese one, and I actually went through, like, every single one of the Japanese subtitles and OCR translated it. And then by the time I sat down to do this, there was an English version out. So all of my OCR stuff is meaningless.
human, C4621, has awakened.
Also, hang on. We go back a little bit. This area here was like, that was in the leaked screenshots. So like we've actually seen this place before. So that does basically confirm like, yeah, the leaked screenshots, like they're of a, you know, they were legit, and the version that they're of is like, you know, at least some of that's actually in here. Oh, okay. You bet it will run like crap on release. It's coming out on PS4 and PS5.
Yep.
So I don't know. I don't know if they're going to run terribly differently. They mentioned it being in development for a long time, so my assumption is it's just designed for PS4, but it will also run, they're probably like a performance patch or something like Elden Ring got. Like, Elden Ring is like a PS4 game, but if you play the PS5 version, there's like an option you can turn on in the menu that just makes it a little bit prettier.
Has there been like a lot of like PS5 exclusive stuff to really sell it? Because it seems like a lot of things are on both.
Yeah,
at least things that I care about.
I still don't have one. I've seen a PS5 in my life once. And I know one person in Melbourne who had one, and she's now moved. That was my one chance at seeing a PS5. Sin has two.
Owns two or has seen one twice?
No, she has two. She has one and her boyfriend has one.
It does look like they're bringing back some of the weird MTs from 5,
Yeah.
which is kind of neat.
Yeah, the little guy that's like rolls up in a ball.
Yeah,
that's like, yeah.
They had like those unicycle robots in the other one, and
for reference, like people who don't know, which I think is a lot of people watching us, that like Armored Core has this distinction between ACs and MTs. It's like the ACs are the fancy robots that you play as that have the interchangeable parts. And then MT is like, it's called Muscle Tracer, and it's basically just like utility robots that have one purpose, like a forklift or like a gun boat or something like that.
yeah, like the really anal breakdown is that like all of them are muscle tracers because they like imitate muscular movement, and then the armored cores are modular MTs that have an armored core piece.
Yes. I also just realized something.
Then next is like an entire step up from ACs to the point where they refer to regular MCs as normals in 4.
Yeah. I also just realized that the thing that like has the big talons that go down the front, I think that's just Armor Spider from Demon Souls. I think they've just reskinned it.
Look, you gotta cut corners somewhere.
Oh, I'm not complaining. I like that. I think that's literally one of Armor Spider's moves.
Nice.
And yeah, like this shot there where like it closes around it, and then it just like it does this like it's like a parody of Macross. There's just like 100 missiles firing out at once.
See, that's the one that I keep wondering if that's going to be an overt weapon or if that's a boss encounter.
Yeah, because you can see like it's like a frame that like an AC is piloting.
But at the same time, I can't really imagine or really want one of those hanging off my back and obscuring half of the
Yeah,
screen.
I'm wondering if like maybe you could control it like for one boss fight or something.
Yeah, that might be cool.
Yeah, but like you absolutely would not be able to control this thing normally. Like it's twice the size of the robot.
I liked some of the over weapons in concept, but like they're really hard to actually use, and then once you've like used the charge, they just kind of sit there hanging.
That's the thing that strikes me about the melee in this, because like we brought up before, there's like a melee over weapon it's basically just like a series of rotating chainsaws. It looks like something.
Be a poison swamp.
It looks like something you would use to like bore a tunnel or like for deforestation or something.
No, seriously, there's gonna be a poison swamp.
Oh, there's gonna be a poison swamp.
I almost guarantee you're going to go to a place that's like oversaturated with raw coral or something like that.
And it'll start draining.
It'll
It'll constantly drain you, yeah.
Or maybe there'll be pigs.
I mean, yeah, because this goes back to 1, where like even 1 manages to get a poison swamp level in a mech game. by having this like, what is it? What's the justification? It's like a metal-eating virus that looks like a purple cloud.
I forget if it was that or like acid,
It's
like
something,
acid
yeah.
mist or something.
Yeah,
Just
that's
something constantly.
the
And then there's like
level,
another.
the level where you're constantly losing armor, and it's also a maze, and the way you progress is by finding hidden doors.
And they had a couple parts in later games where like you would go into like an unshielded blast furnace.
Yeah,
And I think they pulled the acid mist trick again in 3 when
that
you go to
makes
one of the
sense.
biological
Yeah,
labs.
yeah. I remember there was
And then
also there were ones where it's like
there's a couple Kojima contaminated
yeah,
zones
the
where
Kojima
like your primal
radiation.
armor didn't work.
Yeah. I remember them specifically. They were like they introduced heat in is it 2 or 3 that they introduced? 2 and 3 blend together in my head, but there's one where they introduced the concept of heat.
I want to say it's like the back half of 3
Yeah.
or like they introduced it in 3 and kept changing
Yeah,
it.
well, you have to, like, your radiator becomes important because it's managing how hot the whole mech is, and then they start dropping you in, like, really hot areas. And if you don't have a good radiator, the heat starts climbing, and you start, like, the mech just starts melting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget. They really messed around with the balance of like the heat system in between the 3 games.
Mm.
Like they pretty much completely redid the engine after Silent Line. And I forget if it debuted in Ninebreaker or Nexus, but Ninebreaker and Nexus kind of ran off the same
Yeah.
setup. Formula Front too. But by
Formula
the time
Front's the,
Last
like,
Raven,
AI-driven one, isn't it?
yeah, you
Yeah.
just program everything.
Yeah.
And then like by the time Last Raven came out, they just got rid of flamers altogether.
Yeah.
But I think you got like heat buildup from being hit by regular rounds.
Yeah. Like, it does
But
that
when your
thing that
heat
the
maxes out,
Souls games do, where, like, you can look at them, you can stand back and say these all basically look and play the same, but then when you get down to the nitty-gritty, suddenly, like, changing how heat works makes one of them very, very different.
John brought up something good there. They do mention in the trailer dialogue that you're kind of operating under a borrowed identity.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
this...
maybe...
Yeah.
They also say that presumably they're talking about the player character is like an augmented human.
Yeah, because they say, this is like, I went and translated all the subtitles and I didn't need to. But it's like, they call you Enhanced Human C4621. But then they also say identification name Raven. So I'm guessing it's like, that's us. And then we might be able to pick a call sign. But it's like the thing about Armored Core, which we've sort of brought up, is like in the Souls games, they get around you being able to name your character by having everyone call you a title. So they'll call you like Slayer of Demons or Chosen Undead or something. And in the Armored Core games, they do that where it's Raven. So you pick a name for yourself, and that's your character's name. But they will only ever call you Raven. Or like Attack Dog or something, but they mostly just call you Raven. So in this one, they're calling you Raven, and they say, like, you're Enhanced Human C4621. Yeah, and they say, like, what are you going to do with a borrowed name? And they also mention you have, like, borrowed wings or something. And
So maybe you're impersonating somebody or
well,
standing
the
in for
only
someone.
real hint we get at a plot in it is when they talk about, like, they say, like, we're approaching Rubicon, wake them up, and they say, like, understood, like, Handler Walter. And then later on, someone says, oh, you're one of Walter's proteges. So, like, presumably, like, this Walter character is going to be, like... He's going to be important if people are like, oh, you're one of Walter's proteges. Which is not, like... They've done it before. There's, like Fiona Jarnfeld becomes, like, she's an
Fat Man.
And Fat Man. We're like, and like Magnolia, where like they're like important characters in the story.
Yeah.
And like you serve under them, but the idea of like, oh, you're the protege of someone who is famous for being a great like warrior, and like that whole thing, that seems way more like something they would do in like, I want to say in like one of their fantasy games. That seems it sounds a lot like Sekiro or a lot like Bloodborne. where it's like your character is specific, like you've inherited you're like the protege of someone, you've sort of inherited like their mission, you've inherited like maybe something that they've done in the past, you have to clean up after it.
Can I subtweet somebody live?
You may.
Somebody on my Discord is like, I'm finally playing Armored Core 1. I already had to restart a mission because my camera ended up pointing straight down, and nothing I did was fixing it. Turns out it's due to not having L2 and R2 on my Vita.
You know, I was playing a PS1 first-person game, and I could not look up or down, and L2 and R2 literally did nothing, and the way you did it, you had to hold triangle and then press L2 and R2. The triangle button did nothing else. Why is it like this?
I started playing seriously on like the PSP ports of like 3 and its sequels, and since I was like already on the PSP, I was used to playing Peace Walker, where they have the camera commands on the face buttons.
Yeah.
So I just started doing that manually for like every early Armored Core game.
So John again brings up like something in chat, which is the idea of like human plus.
Yeah.
Because like the way they call you an augmented human, to me, that's like very human plus.
I think it's all but guaranteed.
Yeah. Because, like, for reference, like, in case people don't know, Human Plus is a mechanic in the games. Like, it recurs, it always runs slightly differently. But, what it does specifically, like, I think 1 is the game where it's, like, it plays more of a role in the story, like Human Plus. And, what Human Plus does in 1 is, like, basically, if you run out of money and you go into too much debt, your body gets sold and experimented on. And it wipes the debt away, and you end up augmented, which might sound like a good thing, but it also, what it does, it erases your name. And your name ends up as just a series of numbers, and it's, like, really creepy when it happens. And, like, the idea of, like, calling someone's augmented humanoid C4621. Like, that's very... But it's weird, then, that would be... Yeah, at the beginning of the game. Presumably you're already someone like that.
It's like there were later ones where they had characters who were like implied to be, but I think after Silent Line, you stopped being able to actually get Human Plus.
Yeah, I mean, they do it... 3 does a thing where it's like, it doesn't really have the creepy experiment Human Plus, it just has this part called OP Intensify.
Yeah.
And if you equip it, it gives you Human Plus, like, bonuses, but you don't actually go through the whole, like, oh, I've been strapped to a table and there's a weird light and now my name has been erased.
I actually really like that one because it makes you do, like, a bunch of, like, unmarked challenges to unlock it.
Yeah, unlock Intensify, yeah.
It's like when you get to, like... Part of the reason, like, Last Raven is, like, really brutal is, like, you don't have Open Intensify anymore. Like, it just disappears from your inventory, even if you port the save file forward. But, like, your opponents clearly do because they're using illegal builds.
Yeah.
And then in 4, it's, like, they just kind of outright say things like, the pilot of Fragile is a cyborg.
Yeah.
And then they have, like, the Reaper squad in 5, I think is supposed to be the same kind of deal.
Someone's asking how many NPCs in the first AC were Human Plus. Like, there's a few. Because Human Plus, like, it's kind of... We were talking about this. It's actually kind of hard to access Human Plus if you don't know it's there. Because AC1 just lets you save and load after every mission. So if you were in a situation where you started going massively into debt, just, like, reload. And just avoid it. But, yeah, there are characters in 1 who are Human Plus. And they're all going crazy when you meet them. Like, they'll demonstrate things that you shouldn't be able to do. Like, they'll boost infinitely. Or they'll be able to, like, use weapons you have to stop to use without stopping. But then they'll start talking to you, and it's just this, like, weird garbled thing where they're, like, screaming, and they start warning you that, like, you're the next one.
I think that was, like, the main plot behind Project Phantasma, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, your rival ends up wired into the weird mobile armor thing.
Yeah, the Phantasma that looks like a lobster.
They actually don't show a lot of humans in general in the Armored Core series. Not directly.
No, like, you see, like, hands and people in silhouette a lot, but you don't really see the people.
kind of cool. There's like this detachment to everything.
And also there's this thing that's like, you could almost read a lot of the early games, like, are you even actually in the mech? Given that it can be completely destroyed and you just get a repair bill. Like, are you actually controlling it remotely or something? Like, it's a weird sort of like, like it's
You could be a mission broker.
yeah, exactly. Like you don't see it.
Oh yeah, Last Raven did have tiny humans who attempt to hurt you.
I guess we can look at like relative scale is something I talked about.
Yeah.
Because like Armored Core 1, like the mechs get kind of smaller, don't they? Like over time. Because in Armored Core 1, you can like stand on cars, like, and they go like your foot is the size of a car, and you can just stand on it, and it goes crunch. Whereas here, like, it's hard to get a proper sense of scale, but I get the impression they're a lot smaller.
Trying to see if I could find like an easy, like a wiki page or something that breaks down generations of scale.
Next smaller? They're much smaller, aren't they?
I think Next are supposed to be massive.
Okay. Which is the one? There's one that's like, it's much smaller. I don't know.
That's probably 5.
Yeah.
Because like when you're fighting the White Glint, what do they call it? Just to be like kind of coy, it's like NWGIX.
Something.
I like to call it Black Glint because it's like the evil version.
Works for me. Yeah, here we have the line that they're using in English is like, the Japanese one got translated as like, you're a protege of Handler Volta. And this one is like, you're one of Handler Volta's hounds. And like, to me, yeah, that focus on like there being a sort of mentor figure. Like, that sounds a lot like Sekiro, when they're constantly mentioning like, oh, you trained under the great Shinobi Owl. Like, why aren't you following Owl's command and things like that? And Owl's like, you know, why the will of the father is absolute. Why are you disobeying your father? Because like, the line like, you're one of the infamous Handler Walter's hounds. I can't imagine that in one of the other games.
Yeah, the closest I can really think of is like Fat Man, because they sort of mention like he's affiliated with like different Ravens in the past, but he's just a transport pilot.
He's the guy.
He's not really hyped up as your mentor.
And he has an awesome theme song that he sings.
Yeah.
Orewa Fatuman. But yeah, like the closest I can think of would be like Fiona or Magnolia, yeah. Because like Fiona and Magnolia, like, they have like actual like arcs within the game.
Okay, according to the Armored Core wiki, necks are generally 10 meters tall. So from there...
Okay, someone's asking, will Patches be an AC6 he was in the previous game? So, Patches actually technically starts in Armored Core. He starts in Armored Core for Answer, and he's called Patch the Good Luck. And he's called Patch, not Patches, but he's kind of the same character in that he sets up a mission briefing for you, and then he betrays you when the mission starts, and just tries to run off with like, he basically turns on you, I think, to get the money that you would have gotten. But
I think he's just portrayed as a coward in that one. He runs like hell if you defeat the guy he's with.
Yeah, he like ambushes you with someone else, and then he's like, oh shit, when you beat them and tries to leave. But like, this gets into the origin of Patch's name. Because he's called Patch, and his mech is called the No Count. And his emblem is like a dice. And he's shot bullet holes into it, so it's rolled a 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, no count is a thing that he actually says, like, in the Souls games. When he betrays you, when you go back, he says, no count, no count, no count. And he's literally saying that didn't count. He's like, I betrayed you, but it didn't count. So that's like the genesis of the Patches, like, I'm going to betray you. Oh, I didn't really mean it. He says no count. But, like, this is what I've heard. Apparently, no count actually comes out of gambling, and that's why he's called the no count. He has like the dice because it's meant to be like you make a bad bet or something. You're like, oh, no count, no count, no count when it goes wrong. And I think the name Patch might literally just be a pun on pachinko because he's like a gambler. Like, God knows why else he's called Patches. It's a ridiculous name.
I've always kind of wondered if there was more to that scene, though, because usually when there's an unregistered Nex, they're affiliated with Orca.
Yeah.
And he was, like, escorting an Orca. And I don't think they hired him for his skill.
So many names from For Answer end up in the Souls games. Like, Otsdarva.
Otsdarva, kinda.
Old King. Oh, what is
there
this?
There are
like,
many Old Kings.
Old King. There's like, there's like a Night Lady in Demon Souls. She ends up, it's like Ryzen something.
Ryder Palash?
No, Ryder Palash ends up in Bloodborne.
Oh.
There's like, I think she's called like Listel or Ristel or something. She ends up in like mentioned in Demon Souls, but not the actual, like, not an interactive NPC.
I'm just like running through all these names in my
Yeah.
head and trying to think if they like hit
Oh.
anything like Windy Fanchon, Roy Salad, Saland, not salad.
Alant is in Demon Souls. Oh, and the weapon that Shira keeps fucking up is a reference to AC4's killing. Oh, Old King. Yeah, Old King. Old King is the like hilariously evil end for Armored Core For Answer.
In a revolution,
Yeah,
blood
you
must be spilled.
he
Do you agree?
Basically, you
creepypasta guy, doesn't it?
commit genocide with the help of this man who sounds like the Count from Sesame Street. He's just going like, 20 million dead, 40 million. She just like,
He's the guy that calls you lapdog.
yeah, it's like, oh, obedient lapdog. And yeah, and then there's that thing in For Answer that's really creepy, where if you like behave badly enough, the other characters start calling you it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really creepy.
If you play on hard, they actually add your like radio operator to the people that ambush you in the final mission.
Okay, why do you commit a genocide? That's a very interesting question. So, I was talking to Xenolalia about this the other day. Xenolalia was the person I had on last time we did this, and the stream got pulled, so I'm really sorry. But basically, like, Armored Core 4 For Answer is like, the world is so fucked up. Everyone's dying and everything's in complete, like, disarray, and it's just this wasteland, and then it's just like, hey, do you want to kill some of the survivors for $3,000? And that's kind of just like, once you go down that road, Old King is just like taking that to its logical conclusion. That's like, what if we killed 100 million people for even more money? Because why not? It's
the
like,
way I understand it is like he's with Orca because he's broadly on the same page that the cradles need to come down.
Yeah.
But like the closed plan is that they're just going to cut the power so the cradles will like be doing a forced landing. And he's just like, nah, we're gonna blow them up.
Yeah. But yeah, like, we were talking about how, like, a lot of people praise the Souls games for being like, oh, it's like you're in the world after, like, the apocalypse and everything's falling to pieces. And Zen is like, no, this is much worse. Like, For Answer is even worse, because it's like there's not even anything left at all. It's just, like, people squabbling in a desert for just, like, will you murder people for not even very much money? Hang on. Let's put some genocide on in the background. Hang on.
That's sure a sentence. There's one called like Counting with
Yeah,
Old
that's the
King,
one I've got up.
which is the one that's edited to play Precious Park.
Precious
in the
Park, which
background.
is fucking slaps. I wrote my entire dissertation listening to the Armored Core For Answer soundtrack.
It's such a good soundtrack.
Yeah. So, like, for people watching, these things here, these are the cradles, and they have, like, the last remnants of humanity on them, essentially.
Well, the rich people.
All the rich people, yeah. And, we're just killing all of them. If Armored Core 4 answer is the one where, like, you can beat the game, and it's like, by the way, you irradiated the surface so badly, everyone's gonna die anyway. I think there's like, because like Armored Core, it's evil, and it's evil in a very like clinical and detached way.
Yeah, you're not getting the laughing supervillain kind of evil. They're like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
profit margin kind of evil.
yeah, yeah. Because it's like the sort of like the bad ending of like Sekiro or something, where you're like possessed by a demon of revenge and like you're like on fire and stuff. This is just like, no, you're just murdering people because you're being paid to do it. What's left standing in the ending? Oh, nothing. I was asking like, how does...
It's basically implied at the end of For Answer that you're just going to keep killing people for no reason.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they say like that. They're like...
The ending monologue is like the one who has taken more lives than any other in history.
Yeah. But there's like... This leads to like... You mentioned if like you get ambushed by everyone else. So you get given this mission that's like, hey, go here and do this thing, and it looks like a normal mission, and then suddenly everyone else shows up and like, we have to kill you. We have to stop you because you're doing too much damage. But like,
that part's so cool.
It's so cool, and during it you can hear them talking to each other. And they're like actually speculating if you're human or not.
Maybe it's an animal.
Yeah, that's so fucking creepy where they're like talking and they're like, who cares? Like, is it even human? Maybe it's an animal. Like, can it even understand what we're saying? Like, it's so, like, disturbing. Are there multiple endings? Yeah. For Answer has, like, it has a few, doesn't it? It has, like,
I think it's 3.
3, yeah. It has, like, Armored Core 1, that has one ending, but it's, like, left open, sort of. Armored Core 1 is interesting. Like, we actually streamed the whole thing, like, a while ago. But it's got 2, like, paths to it. Where there's, like, you can side with Chrome or side with Murakumo. And then that will affect how the missions play out, but they always converge on the same spot. And it always ends in the same way, and that's kind of the point of the story. Because it's like you've been told repeatedly that like you're like a rational, sort of independent actor. And you're doing like, you're making choices. And you're making choices that are good for you, and like you're in control. And then it turns out no matter what you picked, like the system was sort of rigged against you anyway. So the solution is you just destroy the system. And then it's like, I have no idea what happens next.
100 million.
100 million. There are so many more lives to take. Our journey is just beginning. Yeah, and then like 2 and 3 don't have different endings. You always fight Leos Klein at the end of 2. I think like they have like deliberately open-ended endings.
Yeah.
I'll put on Occupation of Arteria Carpal, that's the one where everyone turns against you. They have like deliberately open-ended endings. Whereas For Answer, like, that actually has like a distinct, like, there are different paths. There's one where you're a mass murderer, there's one where the surface is irradiated.
I think Last Raven has the most like actual distinct endings.
Yeah. I don't think I've played much Last Raven.
It's actually set up really cool. There's like a 24-hour deadline before the 3 faction remnants just are going to go completely ham on each other. And it's up to you, like, which missions you take take part in before the deadline. And it kind of like is dependent on how strong each faction is and who's still alive.
Yeah.
There's like one path where like you just kind of go out your way challenging every Raven that you can. And that kind of puts you on the hardest path.
Someone's asking, do we know if Kodo Hoshino's doing the music? We don't know who's doing the music, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was Kodo Hoshino.
I hope
It'd have to be. And just watching
the occupation.
Yeah, just watching the occupation thing.
So there's a really cheesy way to beat this stage, where you equip an AC with like really long barreled weapons and stand outside, and the gun barrels clip through the outer wall, and the enemies just keep running directly into the wall.
Yeah.
So you can just like very gradually snipe them to death.
That's the way you chase the man-eaters in Demon Souls as well. That's clearly
Sometimes I
it's
wonder
a
if they leave
reference.
stuff like... Yeah, it's a reference.
I know that there's at least one like glitch in Demon Souls they deliberately left in after they found it, where you can like skip.
Yeah.
You can like, there's a level you can skip half of by like rolling off the side of a building, and they just left it in. They're like,
Just
it doesn't
give people
ruin
an
things.
out.
Yeah.
I mean, like sticking a gun barrel through a solid object feels less intentional, but it is a pretty common way to
K-Sidiv
just
says Kodo
beat this.
Hoshino tweeted he's doing the music, so excellent.
Nice. Yeah, I love how old King gets like ganged up on and shot down. He's like, "I'm so glad we got to know each other better." By the way, there is like a lot of like fan art for the 4 Answer pilots in
Yeah.
particular, even though you never see them and there's
Yeah.
no like canon sketches that I know of.
I think you see
And-
like you see some people in silhouette, don't you? Like you see Fiona in
You see,
silhouette.
you see
Yeah.
Fiona's head.
Yeah. You don't even see her whole.
But
You just see the outline of her head.
I just think that it's kind of cool that, like, even though you never really canonically see the characters, there's like a fan consensus what
Yeah.
some of them look like. Everybody assumes that the one girl that pilots the big green heavy that you can hire as a support is like a green-haired, cheery anime babe with
Makes sense.
giant chest. Because she's a heavy, I guess.
Yeah. I like
She's like
I like the
She's the
Go ahead.
She's the only just generally pleasant person in the game. She's just like, it's been a pleasure to work with you. See you next time.
There's one in I can't remember if it's 2 or 3, but there's like a character in the arena, and their backstory is they're fighting in the arena to raise money because their younger brother is dying of cancer. And you just beat them, and they just disappear from the rank. I was like, cool. We just killed 2 people possibly.
Whoops.
Yep. And you have no choice but to fight her because she's like just like above you. It's like if you want to go up in the rankings, you're gonna have to murder her. There's an AI upscaled white glint on screen now.
I always liked... I think my favorite AC3 arena lore is there's like a guy that's kind of like fairly up there called Cypress.
Yeah.
And his bio says that he's like a fanatic, like he's religious about the controller running the city.
Yeah.
And in the first few missions of a Silent Line, you get called to do a mission to investigate suspicious activity at the old controller like headquarters. And you find this guy in the wreckage waiting to fight you because you killed the controller at the end of AC3.
Oh, yeah, no, they do each like the villain of Armored Core 2 is meant to be you from Armored Core 1. Like it's not directly stated, but
Yeah.
oh, hang on, we can get a sense of scale now. Hang on. There's white glint next to a person. So, hang on. If we assume that the person is like, I reckon white glint's probably like maybe 12 or 14 meters high.
If you look at one of the intros to Last Raven, they show Zenaida getting in or out of her mech.
Oh, okay.
And there's like pretty much the entire backpack pops up and the seat rises up a little bit. So in 3 at least, the pilot takes up the majority of the chest.
Yeah. Hey,
So you can
Rorik.
tell the cockpit's got to be a lot smaller
Yeah.
or bigger in a next. Just looking at how small the people on the deck are compared to this thing.
Yeah. Oh, this is like one of those things that just goes so fucking hard where it's like like you mentioned Battletech and like the mechs in Battletech, it's like this thing has guns for arms because it's like a tank, whereas in Armored Core it's like this thing needs an actual rifle that is so large it has to be flown in by helicopter for it to hold in like a mechanical human hand. It's incredible. This is White Glint, by the way, the one that we keep talking about.
Overbot.
And yeah, like the overboost system. Hang on, I'll
They almost
put...
always have like some kind of like a spokes robot or cover robot that ends
Yeah.
up getting all the merch.
Yeah. I think this the one from Armored Core 1 dual wields rifles, which you can't actually do in game.
Yeah. Whoops.
I'll put on Motherwell because this is when we keep bringing up like Radan. But like this is literally just the start of the Radan fight, only you have like an external booster instead of a horse. We're like racing toward this massive thing on the horizon in a desert that's firing like Radan's firing arrows at you, but this is firing these like massive cannon shells.
Have you ever screwed up the sequence so bad you fly out of bounds?
No, but I'm gonna try to.
Oh, this is you? Or...
No.
If you see that red line on the side of the radar,
Yeah.
you can steer yourself just irreparably off course.
I hadn't invented fog walls yet.
I just wasn't thinking about it and just kept dodging to one side.
Oh yeah, also this is what we mean about like it being like a wasteland, sort of very open space. Like obviously this is the Motherwell fight, so it sort of has to work like this, but if you compare like the look of this to the look of Fire of Rubicon, where like Fires of Rubicon, it looks like it's way more built up. We actually haven't seen much like wasteland space in Rubicon. It's all been very like urban or industrial.
There's so much empty space in 4 and 4 Answer.
Yeah.
It almost feels like it's kind of like they just gave you a plane and then threw in some buildings for decoration.
Yeah, which works because like you're moving so quickly. But like,
not to mention the buildings fall over if you look at them.
Yeah.
Funny.
But like it's a game where like you're moving so fast a lot of the time that you need a ton of open space to be able to actually just play it properly. Whereas Fire of Rubicon, I don't know like how you'd sort of overboost in those places. Like it all looked very like a lot seemed to be indoors.
If it works like it did in 5 and Verdict Day, I could see it working because you're just like clicking the stick in and you can more like viably do it in short bursts.
Yeah. Yeah, because like we mentioned like the quick boost comes in 4. It's like you don't have the quick boost in 1, 2, and 3.
You sort of could if you like wanted to put an extension on. But
the extension stuff, yeah. I always use the Exceed Orbit thing because it was the only thing with replenishable ammunition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been a few times where like I ran out of ammo and just like kept turning that on and off.
Yeah.
What was I? Something I was just thinking about and forgot. Something tied to overboost.
I'm putting Caprican on. 81 people are watching this.
Huh.
That's 4 times as many as showed up for Dominion Tank Police.
That's disappointing. I mean, I'm happy, but at the same time, like, I have to stand up for Tank Police.
Tank Police is great. Everyone watching this, go watch our Dominion Tank Police video that we did with the Pen Pals.
Not immediately, but...
I think we ran out of things to say about half an hour ago.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So this is the one that I always compare to Storm King, where it just launches these drones. And like Storm King is basically an aircraft carrier that happens to be a Stingray.
I wanted to name drop Demon X Machina, so I think I've accomplished my goal.
Let's put some Demon X Machina footage on.
Oh shoot, I forgot what the name is. There's like a flying battleship, and when you damage it enough, it drops off a bunch of its excess panels and turns into like a giant serpent.
I'm liking the sound of this.
And they gave it like a really plain name like Bolt or something like that. It was really a pretty good game, but it didn't gel together quite like Armored Core does. I don't know if maybe they show too much. But they had a really neat system. Like, you see those little hexagons floating around the shoulders?
Yeah.
When you leave them like that, they're like a passive armor boost, but you can like tap up on the D-pad and they'll like circle your arms and power up whatever weapons you're carrying.
Oh, alright, cool. Was this the
So it's
one
like-
that I watched you stream and you like you beat one of the bosses by jumping out of the mech and just you found a little like depression in the floor where it couldn't hit you and you just sat in a little tiny hole shooting up at this like giant mech.
That was the final boss.
Oh Jesus.
But when you get shot down, you can hop out of your mech.
Yeah.
Which is it's kind of like a last-ditch desperation thing. And you see how there's like sparklies kind of floating in the air behind those tanks just then?
Yeah.
There are like areas that are saturated with those particles, and they'll regenerate your shields faster if you stand in them. So when they talk about like this coral being like a power source and stuff like that, it immediately made me think of this weird glowing red moon rock. But you're fighting a bunch of like rogue AI-driven machines, and they call them immortals because, you know, they won't die of natural causes. And you can see they've got like a tower shield on the one arm.
Yeah, and like it seems like we were talking about the way that the legs folded up and it went into like flight mode. Like
You
this
can
seems
viably do sword and board build in this game.
Oh, that's awesome.
The melee is actually tuned up a bit.
Yeah, okay, so in the Taipei game show stream, where they talked for like 5 minutes, they mentioned like the way they described the combat was it's not like the Souls games, but it's about finding weaknesses in your opponent's attack pattern. Yeah?
This blue thing here is like a heal tank.
Okay. They talked about you needing like they were talking about needing like no, it's okay. Looking for like gaps in your opponent's attack pattern and exploiting them. And it's like on a very like basic level that's like every video game. But it's not really how I'd like describe the combat in Armored Core melee stuff. Like it's not about like attack pattern vulnerabilities. Because they were comparing it to the Souls games and they said what they learned from that was this like the way that you had to like look at enemy attack patterns and exploit like openings and gaps and stuff, which is not what I think of when I think of Armored Core. Yeah, I think of like it's always like a dogfight between two jets or just like two tanks shooting each other. But yeah, like
I think that's neat that they're going to deepen the melee combat, but it's not like the first thing I think of.
Yeah.
I always thought it'd be kind of cool if they could work like a stealth system into it, like managing your heat signature or something like that.
Yeah.
Where if you're overboosting, you're going to be putting like a beacon on yourself.
Yeah. Okay, someone asking, do I have to have played the previous entries to understand the story? No. It's going to be a complete, like, they're starting over again. Like, something that people are drifting in and drifting out. Like, something we said at the start is, like, there's not, like, really that much of a continuing story throughout them. It's, like, one leads into both 2 and 3, seemingly. It's, like, a split timeline. And then, like, 4 and 5 are their own thing. And there's, like, a couple of callbacks, but other than that, like, you've never needed to know anything to understand anything else. They all basically stand alone. Even the ones that are, like, direct sequels. Well, I mean, okay, the ones that don't stand alone, they don't stand alone because they're basically, like, expansion packs.
Yeah.
Like, Armored Core Another Age, or Armored Core Project Phantasma, or Master of Arena, or something. Like, those aren't like, they're technically standalone games. But they're also, like, they're just basically pre-DLC DLC.
They kind of assume that you're going in with knowledge of the mechanics,
not
necessarily the story, though.
They're mission packs. Like Armored Core Another Age. Another Age is blatantly it's just mission packs. It's just, like, they expect you to import your save file from Armored Core 2 and just do a bunch of, like, extra missions with it. Let's put, hang on.
I think the No Future for Mercs trailer is the one they used to loop at GameStop constantly.
I love that one. Hang on. And when that came out, we were just messaging each other like, you're the one who...
Yeah. They don't give you a lot, but what's there,
What's
you know?
there?
That's how I feel whenever I'm playing shmups that put, like, pre-boss dialogue on the screen.
Yeah. There's another, No, this is weird, because this is, like, a song Frequency wrote, but it's someone else covering them. It's, like, it's weird. Because it's, like, the Frequency version of this song is different. It's called, Day After Day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and like the way that it's like mechs, but they're just lined up with massive guns like they're howitzers. And like this sort of aesthetic of like streaked concrete and stuff. Like
I
this
love
is
the way they designed the transport chopters in these.
also this has the weird what are they? Those weird like autonomous units that are like squids.
Oh yeah, that was like. I think they were like the corporation's weapons, like their lost tech.
Yeah, there's a lot of like lost tech that doesn't look like AC tech. And there's weird ones that were just like, they had like a ball, they look like a Dalek, like a ball at the bottom with like a turret, and they just rolled along. I like how the trailer doesn't attempt to pretend that like this game can keep a stable frame rate. Like the trailer just has scenes that are in like 5 FPS.
Thank you for your honest.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. These like weird red, like kind of more futuristic looking ones.
That thing.
Yeah, the massive like flying wing bombers that look awesome. Oh, this is the one where there's the unmanned ACs that they call eunuchs, but it sounds exactly like a eunuch. And it's like the eunuchs are out of control. And you're like, did you really? I mean, it's the same people that did Ceaseless Discharge and the Penetrator. Like, they must have known.
You should all know the situation. Units everywhere are going out of control.
That's the Reaper Squad. And when this came out, I had the Reaper Squad emblem as my like Facebook profile image.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was like rewatching some of the cutscenes from
Yeah.
Verdict Day.
And we're just watching the trailer now.
They got like that pre-battle thing for like the White Glint fight where like it's like to live as I please and die
It is a simple
senseless
death. That is who I am. And there's like the really smug guy going like, all is proceeding as planned, and it's just like it's every trope for hitting all of them.
Yeah, it was like the wormy corporate sponsor guy.
And he sounds like the villain from Trapped, the Flash games that had 2B's voice actor in them before she was famous.
Oh god, what was that guy's name again?
Dan McNeely. Dan McNeely, head of the Armored Gamzee's crime syndicate. He's VA's name is Edwin Tiong, and he's in there's like a relatively nice looking indie furry platformer called Dusk and Elysian Tale, and he's like one of the villains in that.
I have that.
Yeah, he's one of the characters in that. Oh yeah, we're getting a lot of like, why do I feel so trapped in the comments?
Was that the one where you have to make a fishing line with?
Yes, I have to make a banana, a like pocket knife and some rope to make a fishing line to catch a fish to give to a cat to get a blowtorch.
So Sophie,
Yeah. Yes!
Do you think that they're going to add a banana switchblade fishing pole puzzle to fires at Rubicon?
I mean, if they do a crafting system, you never know.
Oh, that'd be sick.
And what you're gonna get out of the way that, like, they call you, like, a dog and a hound and stuff, like, it all, like, I keep comparing it to Sekiro because it's the same director. But,
When
like,
I heard "Wake the Dog Up," that's like a line straight out of Cyberpunk 2077.
but, like, because from what they've said, like, Miyazaki, he was involved in, like, initial planning of, like, because obviously he's the president of the company. He was involved in the initial planning and then he handed it over to Yamamura. And Yamamura was the director of Sekiro, and, like, the plot of Sekiro, essentially, like, it revolves around the idea that, like, you're the protege / adopted son of this, like, legendary shinobi, and it becomes about, like, are you going to follow him? Are you indebted to him? How much are you indebted to him that you will follow him regardless? And that sort of throws up the central, like, dilemma for the character, which is, like, realizing that Owl is a total shithead and what he wants to do is wrong, and then being like, I have to turn against this person, and then realizing that once you've done that, you have no idea what to do because you've spent your life following orders. And I know I'm going off literally 2 lines of dialogue here, but the way that they call you a dog and then, like, you're one of Walter's hounds makes me wonder if, like, is it going to go in the same direction? Like, is it going to be like you're the... And also the way that they even call you, like, artificial... What is it? Enhanced Human C4261. No, 6621. Where it's like... The idea, like, maybe you don't even have a name. But, like, you have so little identity that, like, you're just a number. And then is it about you finding your identity?
That'd be cool.
Because that's kind of what Sekiro is about. I really like that about Sekiro, because it's like... I'm just talking about Sekiro now, but whatever. But, like, most games that have, like, stories or whatever, where, like, you confront the father figure and defeat them, it's like, that's the end of the story. Like, okay, I overcame my father, I've reached my apotheosis, that's it. Whereas Sekiro is like, that's the halfway point, and then everyone's like, I have no idea what I'm doing anymore. And the rest of the story is about you desperately trying to, like, figure out what to do in the absence of someone telling you what to do. And that, to me, is, like, the interesting part. So I'm wondering if he'll go there again.
On borrowed wings.
I mean, it would be more interesting than just being, like, this iteration of the Raven's Nest being, the Hounds or something like that.
Well, they call you Raven in it, like, they say, this bit where they say, like, identifying name is Raven. That's from my, like, OCR thing.
It's like your handle rather than, like, your class, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Like, are you going to be, like, a Raven? Like, is it going to be Raven's Nest again, or be the Hounds?
They pulled that in 4. They kept referring to you as Anatolia's Raven.
Yeah.
Even though everybody else had been upgraded to Lynx's, you were, like, a veteran pilot.
Yeah, they call you, like, the old man in 4. Like, you're implied to be, like... Or am I misremembering that you're implied to be, like, much older? You're, like, a war veteran in 4.
I don't think they go that directly, but they do say you're a veteran of some kind.
Yeah.
Like, I think there is somebody that's, like...
They call you old man, I think.
I think there is a part where they go and ask you, like, so that next is sure a whole level different than a normal, isn't it? We're like, this can't compare to a normal.
Is that a really, really scary moment where it looked like everything
like
was
the trailer.
Hang on.
Painful Discourse asks, and I think that's a good time to recap and sum up.
Okay.
I think it looks very promising.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll just go through it one more time.
Yeah.
So, like, thing to, like, bring up is that, like, again, people who are just showing up, like, the Armored Core games, like, they've had a very loose story. But the idea that you would have to have played or understood or remembered, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is like, no, you won't have to. This is going to be the biggest, going to start over. Yeah, the trailer's not working.
Spinny, 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 spinny.
There we go. Okay. So, like, you're not going to have to have played the others to understand this. There's going to be a bunch of references, like, we've noticed things in it, like the primal armor system from 4 is in it. The, what look to be the overweapons are in it, like the quick boost is in it. There's a big walking tank that kind of looks like Motherwell. You know, looks like they've, like, reused, like, a lot of things, but it's not going to be, like, you will not have trouble understanding it. It's going to be self-contained.
Yeah.
So, aesthetically looks a little different in a lot of ways, in the sense that it's going for like a much more sort of space opera-y feel to it. Like it's another planet, there's another star system, not really something that we've seen in the series before. We've been to Mars, but we haven't done anything like there's just another planet that's mysterious and has mysterious energy on it. Let's go back and hang on, what the hell is this thing? Like this weird thing where it's just this like some sort of weird plant, like it's like looks like an oil refinery. But then in the distance, there's this massive fucking... Is that a spaceship? I guess this is like a spaceship, like, docking... Yeah, this is like designed... This is like a launch pad or something, yeah. I thought it was going to be some weird alien citadel, but it looks like a spaceship.
I thought it was, like, carved out of rock.
Yeah, no, I thought that too. Is that, like, what the coral is and, like, siphoning it from that? But I think this is just a docking, like, thing for a spaceship. The focus on, like, the mysterious... coral energy from the planet Rubicon 3 is like again very different to what the series has done before. They've had like MacGuffin things in it, like they've had like Martian tech, and they've had like the Kojima particles. But
That's the biggest one.
Yeah, but like the idea of like the mysterious alien energy source from another planet is not something they've done before. That's clearly not Motherwell, by the way. It's just the same principle of like a walking tank. You can see it's much longer than it almost looks like a train of sorts. And yeah, the way that like the areas seem to be quite dense without actually being indoors also seems newish. Like beforehand we've had like games that were largely set like inside of structures and games that were set in like wasteland areas, but this almost looks like you're going in and around sort of like built up spaces, which we haven't really seen before. So that's going to be new.
Possible flight mode.
Yeah, the flight mode looks interesting because we've not had a proper flight mode before. Like we've had you can tune the mech to the point where if you hold the jump button for a very long time, you won't fall down. But the idea of like an actual sort of hover mode is new. That whip thing is very new. I'm actually, God, we're getting really nerdy now, but like, if you look at Medea's model in Dark Souls 3, he has an unused mesh for like a whip, and now I'm wondering if like, is that Medea's whip and they've repurposed it for this game? Because that would sort of make sense. Because it was like a sort of weird like dragon sort of like magic whip thing.
I kind of like how it comes off like a chain whip, except the segments are like little meshes almost.
Yeah, no, it looks awesome. Yeah. And like there's certain things we can see that they've recycled from other games, like the like pack grenade. It's not in this trailer, but in the early trailer there was like a pack grenade that sort of went off and like stunned someone who was next to you, and that was literally the Sekiro firecracker animation just done again. Kojima particles are not a reference to Hideo Kojima as far as I know. And yeah, so I'm asking about like the worm thing. Is the worm alien tech? Like the plot that they explained is like Rubicon was settled by humans, and then there was this thing called like the Rubicon catastrophe that burned the system. And then this is set 50 years after that. They go back to Rubicon, but there's the people that settled Rubicon initially are still there. So there's gonna be this like tension between like the people who have like been on Rubicon the whole time and then the other forces coming in to take stuff, which is again like that's kind of Sekiro-y. I know it's a lot of stories, but like Sekiro has the whole thing with like the Ashina clan with their Ashina land, and then that's being encroached upon by the Interior Ministry and things like that.
Ashina plans.
Yeah. And you just the idea of like Ashina man with this Ashina plan. Will this have the Mortal Blade in it? Actually, yeah, this thing here that like where the mech like it gets this like lightsaber thing. And like we've talked about, there have been like super powered melee weapons in it before that were called over weapons, and you got like one shot with them, and then you just purge them from the robot. And like the Moonlight's been in the series as well. Like you've had like laser blades, but the fanciest laser blade I can remember is like a laser blade that shot waves. The idea of something like this that just looks like it looks like an execution move. Also, the way it's playing is interesting because like those they're like fighting while this is happening, which implies you're getting like almost a Souls style like a lock on with circle strafing and stuff like that. That you can do moves like this where you're not having to like correct the robot in the same way.
Oh yeah, I haven't really seen like an aiming box in any of the trailer stuff.
Well, the trailer stuff, it's got no
it's
HUD at all.
probably not gameplay.
Well, it's got no HUD at all, but like I'm wondering if it is going to be like you can just like do the Souls thing of like lock on and just like stay locked onto one target and you'll move quite smoothly around it. As opposed to like the sort of clunkier stuff you get, and like
Yeah.
also this is interesting where you have like these sort of enclosed spaces where you're fighting these things, and it's like it's very sort of like this is a boss arena. And when you think about the other games, like obviously they've always been boss arenas and bosses in them, but like they all seem to have something like this. Those weirdly make me think of like a dark, grimdark, high poly version of like something from Mega Man Legends, like the Reaver bots, that were just like a thing that trundles round and tries to smash you. Okay, yeah. So, just to finish up, Graham's asking about online. So there was an interview and they did confirm how the online worked, which is that they acknowledged that Armored Core 5 was perhaps too reliant on multiplayer, which we both brought up, like, yeah, that's because we both played it at the time, and like Armored Core 5 was very it had this like real-time updating map that was like, as you would join a faction at the start of the season and you would play through the missions, and then as you completed missions for your faction, you get this real-time updated like tactical map of how every faction was doing based on their players, how they were going. The problem is like maybe not a lot of people played it, I guess, particularly in the West. Like it wasn't huge. And you were mentioning like they had to patch in bots, but they patched them in really late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the situation was like Verdict Day came out and a friend of mine bought 5 like cheap used but couldn't get a team going, so I had to temporarily go back for him.
Yeah. And so they said Armored Core 6 is going to be a single player campaign, but there's going to be online PvP. So I'm assuming it'll just be like arena mode that you got in the other games. They had this arena mode. Yeah, so it looks like it's going to be single player campaign with online arena mode. They didn't say anything else about it, but I'm assuming you can do 2v2 or 3v3 fights in the arena. Because you've always been able to do that. Yeah.
All I ask is that you can play it offline.
Yeah, and they also mentioned that you'll be able to circulate your designs and your emblems online as well.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to finally import graphics, but I imagine they probably won't do that.
I mean, they've always had a pretty robust like emblem editor. Because even like, I remember showing this off to people and trying to explain that like, Armored Core 1 is from like 1997 on the PS1, and it has a built-in paint program, which is like incredible for that time that like they would go to that length. Where you can draw a bitmap and it has like fill tools and like circle and square tools, and you can like change the palette and stuff. It was like amazing that they let you do that. You could draw your own logo, and it just like it would show up on the mech in the game. It would become a texture, and you get plastered on your like the sides of the robot. And then they kept going with that. Like the 5 and Verdict Day, they go as far as having like vector shapes and stuff that they give you. You can just stretch them to whatever color you want.
I think that's how it works in like Call of Duty and a lot of modern online stuff.
Yeah.
And it also kind of lets them, keep people from putting something rude on their machine
They'll
shoulder.
find out. I mean, I remember seeing
Without a little extra effort.
someone did a whole tutorial like, here's how to make every My Little Pony character in the emblem editor.
Nice.
Life will find a way. Yeah, and they said they would explain more about the online later. So I don't know when that'll be. And they also said that like people have come later on, so I'll just the droidica enemies, the little unfoldy ones. They look like I'm now wondering if that was ever used in Elden Ring. It looks like it should have been for like the pill bug people. The way that you like uncurl yourself. So yeah, this is coming out of August 25th. So in 4 months, basically. And they're going to reveal a little more. Yep.
All the little cannon fodder enemies in 5 and Verdict Day were so dopey looking.
Yeah.
I kind of love them.
So yeah, single player with online PvP coming out August 25th. It's going to be a entirely standalone thing. Don't have to play the other ones to understand it. Having said that, they clearly are recycling a lot of the like mechanics and animations and stuff from the old ones that we've seen. And August 25th, and they said they would reveal more at a later date about how the online's going to work. And that's Armored Core 6. I think I've been doing this. This is now twice as long as the Shadow of the Erdtree episode.
High five.
I thought we wouldn't be able to get anything out of this. I was so worried, and we got 2 hours.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get a couple content-starved Armored Core
Yes,
fans in the
thank you.
booth.
Yes. I was actually painting a dreadnought before we did this. I was about to go to bed, and then it's like the emergency alarm went off, and I had to do this.
That looks nice.
Thank you.
I was doing laundry. It's a little less creative.
It's Tamiya Blue X4. So, yeah, great. So, thanks everyone for showing up. We got way more than I thought. Like, I thought we were going to get like 10 people, and we had like 80 or 90 at one point. So
the hype is real.
The hype is real. Yeah. A lot of people it was sort of a mixture in the chat of people who people who had played the old ones and people who wanted to know more about the new ones. So hopefully this is an entry point for people, I think.
I think it's a good time.
Yeah.
They've had a nice long break. They got a bunch of fans from their other series.
Yeah.
It'd be a really good time for them to do like a whole reboot, newbie friendly, but not too friendly kind of game.
And also, like, it's Armored Core 6, so it's clearly they, in the back of their head, 7's a possibility. Because I feel like the other games that they've done, like, Sekiro didn't, like, it resonated with a lot of people, but, like, it sort of happened and then it dropped off, like, in terms of people making content about it. Like, there was a lot of front-loaded content at the time, and people sort of stopped talking about it after that, which I don't think is fair, because all the discourse was about difficulty and stuff, but, like, the fact that they're going to do Armored Core, and, like, Durasane is completely standalone as well, but the fact that they're going to do Armored Core 6, they'll probably do an Armored Core 7, and I think just the fact that they will likely continue to release, like, semi-regular entries in the series will probably keep it in people's consciousness longer than the other projects they've done other than Souls lately, so I'm hoping that works out.
So, yeah.
Will Armored Core 6 have a difficulty setting? We don't know. The other ones kind of did. For Answer has that bizarre system where you can, like, pick what patch to play on at the start. It's called, like... Is it called tuning?
No, they just, like, outright let you pick between, revisions of the game,
yeah,
balance.
Yeah, it's like you start the game and it's like, here's all the patches we did of this game, just pick one. And you're playing on that patch.
I remember the deal being if you play completely unpatched, energy weapons are completely broken.
Yeah, sounds about right.
But it's not even like a difficulty setting, it's just like tuning for multiplayer.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that is 2 hours and 5 minutes on the dot. That's twice as long as we got out of a single promotional image for Shadow of the Erd Tree. And I think it's about as long as we got out of the initial Sekiro trailer that was just a bone with some string.
That was a good one.
That was a good one, yeah. So, yeah. Oh, that was the one where, like, they talked about... So I promise this is the last thing we'll bring up. Because in that one, we were saying, there's an interview with Miyazaki in 2018, and he said, like, we're working on 3 projects. One's the successor to Dark Souls, one's a reboot of an old game, and one is experimental. And we were convinced that the reboot of the old game was going to be Armored Core. And it turned out to be Sekiro, because Sekiro started off as Tenchu, and then it became its own thing. But yeah, they did do it. I can't reach my physical Armored Core copy from where I'm sitting, but I have all of the PAL ones.
Nice.
So I get called a fake fan.
I actually have most of them digital because of the PSP thing.
Yeah,
I went back and tried to collect them. I still think Nexus is like one of the coolest packages I've seen put together
Yeah.
for like a game period. Because like the main game is on one disc, and then they have like an entire separate disc of just bonus missions and content.
Oh, that's the one they remake parts of it, like Evolution Revolution. Yeah.
Yeah, they remade like whole chunks of like the first few games in the new engine.
You know, and I remember bringing that up because people were like, "Do you think they'll ever remake any of their old games?" And then people would say they've never remade anything, and I'm like, they kind of did.
Kinda.
They remade bits of Armored back when Armored Core was like the flagship series of the company before Souls. But yeah, like they did kind of do that. Yeah, we got some PAL support in the chat. NTSC is for casuals. PAL's good for like weird glitches, because they weren't expecting the games to play that slowly. There's like glitches you can do in Super Metroid PAL that you can't do normally because you're running like fractionally slower.
You ever heard that come up in like speedrun friends before?
Yeah.
A lot of them just stick to like Japanese version. I don't think
Yeah.
any of them really run PAL versions of stuff. But in Japanese, like the text is just more dense and concise.
Yeah.
So they have less dialogue to mash through.
Oh, well, people used to like submit like before like speedrunning was as codified as it is now, like having a PAL version was basically cheating because everything ran slower. So like you could complete the mission and the clock was running fractionally slower the whole time. So it's like, look, I beat this in 5 seconds less than everyone else. And it's like, you actually didn't, but the clock just ran slower. If you don't know what this means, it's because you're not as old as us. I remember when I was teaching, I had to explain to this class of like 19-year-olds about NTSC and PAL, and they were just mystified that anything other than HDMI existed.
I thought it was tied to power outlets or something.
It's to do with the refresh rate of the monitor. Like it's like
Oh.
it's to do with the number of lines on the TV and how often they refresh. And it's like NTSC was NTSC was like it had fewer lines but it refreshed faster. So if you ran NTSC on PAL like you ran it through a PAL thing, it would end up letterboxed and running at the wrong speed. Because PAL had more screen real estate.
So basically they ran slower to compensate for the faster refresh, kinda?
PAL basically it was like a higher quality image, but it ran slower. So it was basically better for everything except games that it was terrible for. Because like TV and movies and everything looked better because they gave you more, there was like a higher resolution. And it ran fractionally slower, but it didn't really matter because movies are done at 24 frames a second anyway.
All I could think was like, it gives you a better picture quality, but you're playing RoboCod.
Yeah, oh god, RoboCod. RoboCod, the game that is on every console known to man and like 3 people actually like.
Now available on Switch.
Oh, Christ. We've hit this point now where we're talking about Robocod. I think it's time to wrap the stream up.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fair.
Okay, so do you just want to quickly plug who you are and what you do for people who were interested?
Yeah, long-time listener, first-time collaborator.
We've collaborated before, just not on, like...
Not
voice.
like this.
Yeah.
I draw and post things on thirdhalf.net, and I can be followed on Twitter at the3... Is it the? Do I have a the on my Twitter?
I think you
I
do.
Right now I have my username set to Violence Toru because I was making fun of Fruits Basket, though.
And for people who, like, also, like, what you do is, like, you're an artist and you're a streamer.
Yeah.
You actually did, you did some art for us a long time ago of the undead merchant giving you a cup of coffee with Framped on it.
I did that, and I did the title card for one of the cryptid videos.
Yeah. And then the that coffee cup design has ended up being Trisha's coffee cup design on her pixel.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so there you go. Yeah, and like for people who like long-time listener, first-time collaborator, but like I haven't known you since like 2003 or 2004, like a very long time. Like we've been friends for a very, very long time.
We're just on opposite sides of the planet. So
yeah, and also we don't like I don't podcast with you. But, yeah, but like we've done a lot of things together. It's just the first time we've actually been like on voice and it's been broadcast to people.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to come back anytime you want to talk about like giant robots.
Oh, I feel like Armored Core is like if this like gets momentum, like there's going to be requests for people who know more about it, and I've got like I've played them all and I like them, but I'm not like as in depth knowledge wise about them as a lot of people I know. So like I've got you and I've got like Xenolalia and like Casetive, and like Acer is sort of like starting to catch up because he only started playing like a while ago, but he's trying to play through them all. He actually wants to borrow my copies of 3 and 4 because they've become massively expensive on eBay.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
Yeah, so he's like, we're both in PAL regions, can you just mail me like your copies of 3 and 4 so I can play them? No, like I'll see. I'll send them to Iceland.
Well, I hope he enjoys them.
Yeah, well, he does like them, yeah. He was here before he's gone now. Yeah. Well, 5's going to be kind of... Can you even play 5?
I think you can still do the single-player content, but I haven't tried.
Yeah.
Actually, I haven't even checked to see if the servers are off, but I think PS3 in general is just kind of not supported.
Yeah, like,
I'll tell you what's surprising is, like, I mean, it's delisted and gone for sure now, but I was able to get multiplayer matches in Transformers Fall of Cybertron going up to, like, 2016, 2017. It's just a bunch of random British kids were hanging out in a channel, and I'm like, hey.
I mean, like, Demon Souls is still running on people's private servers that are just operating out of their computers at their houses, so...
5 on the Microsoft Store. Actually, that is a possibility. It was multi-platform.
Yeah. I'll put my RC
that wasn't
shrine
part of Sony jail.
Hey, we're talking about mechs, there we go.
They are mechs.
Yeah, I think I have 15 of her now.
I'll keep you posted if I see any new ones come out.
Oh, thank you. No, don't tell me, because then I'll waste even more money.
Too late.
Oh no. I haven't got the Masterpiece one that's like $250. Every time I'm like, maybe this time, no.
I am so out of the loop, I don't even know how many Masterpieces there are now. I think Masterpiece Wheelie might not be a joke anymore.
I like how it's like we're still live and it's like let's talk about Transformers Masterpiece Wheelie. It's like Sin talking about Reborn, like it's time to call it a night. Because it is also 3 a.m. here.
Okay.
It was worth it. Sleep. It was worth it. Okay, so thank you very much for doing this at short notice.
It was nice.
It
Thank
was.
you.
It was. I've been wanting to have you on for a while, and I just messaged you. Hey, are you busy?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so thank you very much. Again, you are like thirdhalf.net for your art and blogs and stuff, and twitter.com/TheThreeTwo, which is one word all spelled out. So it's like TheThreeTwo. If everyone you tweet your art there, and you also stream on
Yeah,
you're like the 3-2 on Twitch as well.
Yeah, I post my stream alerts on the Twitter
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah,
So.
and you've got a Discord as well where like you.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, thanks everyone for showing up. Thank you 3-2 for guesting, and I will see you all later. If people are curious, Sin is currently in the middle of editing an episode we just did with Loki. She has everything together, so it'll probably be out in the next 24 hours. Cool. She just got me to record some like linking stuff for it, so that should be out soon. And yeah, we'll see you all then. So bye everyone.